And this will be my first time to share my story, so please bear with me as I am not really a good speaker. But before everything, I want to share my mantra to you. So I want you to look around the person beside you. The nitrogen in the proteins our bodies produce, the calcium in our bones, the iron in our blood were made in the interiors of collapsing stars. You are made of stardust. You are all made of glory dust. And at this moment, you are alive. Some may be struggling, not some, but at some point in our lives, we have this struggle. Yet you are here, moving forward, not at the pace you expected, but at least you're moving. But know this, you were not where you were yesterday. This is what I told myself at my lowest moment during my chemo. I had a bittersweet 2017. Just 2 months after passing the boards, I noticed something weird in my body. My tumor markers multiplied by 100, an indication that I had been carrying in my body something that was programmed to kill me. I had my first surgery last November. My tumor markers were monitored along with my biopsy result, which turned out to be malignant. It actually felt like a refresher course. Cystopathology, something with a suffix oma, which means it is cancer. CT scan results revealed lymph node metastasis, which meant another surgery for me. Everything went downhill from there. 3 weeks after my surgery, we flew to Manila for my second major surgery. Luckily, there is a specialist who does lymph node dissections in NKTI, reference lab na bisa ano? So I was refreshed with my medtech lessons and I went there. I went home after surgery assured of a promising recovery since my tumor markers were approaching the normal value. A month later, I felt a pulsating pain from my lower back going down to my thighs. First diagnosis was nerve damage, so I was given nerve repair medicine and tramadol. The pain worsened. Basically, my February was spent by lying down because the pain worsened, and with prolonged sitting and taking tramadol was like candy. Since my pain was progressing, an MRI was done. The moment my doctor in Manila got my result, I was requested immediately to fly there. We booked the next available flight, packed, and rushed to the airport. I thought this only happened in the movies. I can still clearly remember taking the last 2 tramadol tubs I took as we boarded the plane and praying that the little knife stabbing my back repeatedly be lessened as I headed to the city which the most glorious moment in my life will take place. Arriving at the hospital, I was immediately given morphine for my pain. A full body CT scan was done, an ultrasound, and a series of blood tests. The hardest part was beating the anxiety while waiting for the results. Just months before, I had passed the board exams and I had many plans. I submitted my portfolio to a job that I had always dreamt of, but I had to turn it down the moment I knew I was accepted because just after the day I arrived in Manila, the CT scan revealed a 6 cm tumor behind my aorta, along with 33 nodules in both lungs, a 6 cm pulmonary embolus, and a 6 cm thrombus in my inferior vena cava. I hit rock bottom after my doctor told me that I needed to undergo chemo for stage 3 seminoma. In some ways, chemo is somehow like the board. My regimen was 6 cycles of high-dose chemo, comparable to the 6 subjects in the boards. I had 3 chemo drugs. They made me vomit, gave me sleepless nights, bombed my body with fatigue, gave me anxiety, and made me bald. So 3 chemo drugs, like the 3 examiners who made our lives miserable. Before my first cycle started, I was positive. Even looking forward for it to start, thinking that the earlier it starts, the earlier it ends. Going back to the first day of review, the enthusiasm was overlapping, di ba? We were all super attentive and wrote all the good to knows and all the lagyan ng stars on our notes. And before that, you have to prepare, di ba? So, bagong agited, new highlighters, and some who are extra even took the time to rewrite the notes using colored pens. Before my chemo, I would also prepare by hoarding books that would keep me company during chemo. I enjoy reading classics, and a close friend introduced me to a book about the cosmos, which I began to enjoy reading as well. During chemo, my body was suffering, but my mind was breaking the space-time barrier. In between cycles, there were tests I needed to pass to gain clearance for the next cycle. Hemoglobin, WBC counts, platelets. I needed to reach a target count. Like in every subject, there should be a target score to really assess yourself. There were several times that my counts were very low. I was administered these painful subcutaneous GCSF injections and erythropoietin injections, which made my bone marrow sad. I needed to endure these pains in order to progress. I didn't have a choice. I had to go through this in order to live. There is this fine line between a pessimist and an optimist. The same facts are right there in front of them. The very difference between them is how they interpret the same facts before them. I need you to be optimists right now. We have no choice but to look ahead. 8 days to go before the board exams. 8 days I was confined every cycle. Before my chemo session per day starts, I am given 3 pre-meds and 1 anti-suka, steroids, and antihistamine. I remember feeling anxious every time my nurse prepares my pre-meds. Since my veins were starting to collapse, the pre-meds for the succeeding days would make me feel uneasy because I felt the drugs struggling to pass through my veins. There were times that I was more scared of the pre-meds than the chemo proper. As the cycles added up, the side effects also accumulated. My hair started to fall. I vomited everything I ate. I slept less, and half of my body felt numb. There were days that getting out of bed was the hardest thing to do, but I had gone this far to give up. And so have you. It may feel like vomiting everything you have studied or forcing yourself to study, but you have to push yourself to the edge of the cliff and jump. Then, at that moment, you will realize that you have wings. Last time, a few people asked me, James, how are you able to cope? Or how do you remain positive? I tried asking myself the same question and reflected. Well, I read books to pass my time, listen to music, and watch cute puppy videos, but these answers seemed vague. Doing these things while my body rots is easy. The real questions are, what is it am I living for? What is it that keeps me going? Cancer has this way of making me feel small, powerless. I felt like I was a burden to be carried, and I pitied myself. I could blame the world for going against me, but I didn't. I believe that there was this greater being behind all of this, and this greater being put me in this painful process, which is a part of the total sum of all eternity. Our bill would almost reach about 100,000 every after cycle, but we never had a financial problem because that greater being brought us through it. Behind this unbecoming, behind this torment, there is something beautiful blooming in this mess. But why cancer? I asked. Why can't it be a little less? Pwede in-ground na lang. That we will never know. Science will tell us that cancer is a glitch in the natural selection causing my genes to mutate. But why me? That I will never understand. We might know the answers to our questionnaires, but we will never truly know the answers to life. One would become God if he understood everything. We would not need answers anymore if we were gods. But to arrive in this way of thinking, there is never an easy path. I shut the world off when I knew I had cancer. I ran away from God. Third cycle, I met a mother who had stage 3 liver cancer. Dragging her edematous feet, she walked towards me and asked me, "Bata-bata mo pa, anong sakit mo?" I simply told her I had undergone 2 surgeries, then chemo. She then said, "Magrereklamo pa ba ako?" I was amazed at how she looked down at her disease. Medically speaking, her condition was far worse than mine. She unconsciously spread her light despite her cracked light bulb. That moment was my turning point. But before this, I felt beaten down that I despised praying. I started to believe that prayers were something we did to have a false sense of comfort. But as my tumor shrank, my nodules disappeared, and as my embolus resolved, I knew that prayers worked. It needs not to be like this or like that. It just needs to be the simplest communication you have with God. Did you also know that tears are a form of prayers? The problem with suffering or being burdened is that it narrows down our focus, and that one thing obstructs our view from the goodness around us. I started to become ungrateful at my lowest moments that I forgot how the sun greeted me every morning. I forgot that I had a warm, cozy bed and a great support system. I forgot how it is a privilege to be able to breathe, and how I had the luxury of having a fighting chance against cancer. While on chemo, I lost a lot of weight, all of my hair, and was about to lose my life. Yet I gained knowledge, not the one you get from books, but learnings that life offers. For example, I learned that the Tagalog of cotton is bula, and ivy line is suero. Nice, diba? So whatever negativity you are in, make the most out of it by learning from it. You are never alone in your journey. There will be people who will become your friends, and friends who will turn into family. RMTs. I will address you now as RMTs because I am certain that by God's grace you will all pass. All your hard work will pay off. Your 4 years in school will pay off. But let me give you another perspective. When the results are released, there is this indescribable happiness that you will feel as you see your name on PRC's website. For some, this will be long-lived, but in my case, it was short-lived. It is human nature that we yearn for something more after we have attained a goal, but as the bored fever died down, I began to realize that the world did not seem to celebrate my victory. I was becoming a license number, a part of the statistics of the total number of board passers in the Philippines. I felt like nothing. I pictured myself working for big companies then complaining about how small my salary is. Just another number, just another license in this factory for workers. But there is a big but. But what will set you apart and outshine these other numbers is loving what you do. Find a reason for doing what you are doing and hold on to it. The world is already full of successful people, but it lacks happy people. That is why depression is so prevalent nowadays. One day, you will surely encounter someone like me, a cancer patient. Some are hopeful, yet there are also depressive ones. And as you deal with them, and as they see you with this joy in what you are doing, the spirit of that happiness will overflow. Behind the scenes, You are gonna be heroes saving humanity one CBC result at a time. Outshine the others like exploding stars who are more radiant than galaxies. And as I end, I will share to you our verse last year in IPAS, Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Him who strengthens me. If you go deeper, Paul wrote this when he was in prison. And despite being in prison, he was joyful, he was content, and maybe the point in all of this is total surrender. We hold on so much to our earthly marbles. They may be a person, a dream, a relationship, our lives, or a board exam to be taken. We hold on to these earthly marbles so much that our hands cannot anymore be opened for heavenly diamonds. And being aware of this, I want to teach you a one-sentence prayer. So go with me as I recite. God, open my eyes to see, so that with all my heart, I can give in to you. If it were not for God's grace, I would not be here speaking to you now. God bless RMT's Excelsior.